Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Becoming a president, a crowning moment for any person from any family. Kenyans have voted, fought, and died to elect their presidents. Only one Kenyan family has experienced this 2 times. The Kenyattas.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
In 2013, 60 years after his father became Kenya's first president, Uhuru Kenyatta rode to power in an election where his supporters claimed that he was too rich to be corrupted.
Why I'd vote for you as a leader, if it was even something like for a president, is that you already have a wealthy background, so you see no need to steal. You're already born into power.
The Kenyattas were the epitome of Kenyan aristocracy, wanting to be seen to be above the corruption of other political elite that had, for years, ruined Kenyan lives. But confidential documents exposing a network of secretive offshore companies belonging to members of the Kenyatta family now cast this legacy in new light. The global leak is called the Pandora Papers. It's a vast archive of never-before-seen documents from 14 service providers who sell secrecy to rich clients from around the world.
This leak is really Panama Papers on steroids. This is the Pandora Papers, because we think we're opening a box on a lot of things. We're looking at about 12 million documents from 14 different service providers. These are law firms, firms that set up secret offshore accounts for people in multiple jurisdictions.
In the case of the Kenyattas, the Pandora Papers detail ownership of an expensive home in an exclusive UK neighborhood and an investment portfolio belonging to one of them over $30 million. The investigation has not found any evidence to suggest corruption relating to the first family. What it has found is a trove of documents showing that members of the family have used offshore locations for at least 10 years. The Kenyattas are a very wealthy family with wealth that stretches into the hundreds of millions of dollars and spans numerous sectors of Kenya's economy. They founded what is now the largest dairy company in Kenya and co-own one of Kenya's largest private banks. For a family with such deep roots in Kenya's economy, their foray into the world of offshore networks begs the question: why the investment in global secrecy networks? The family's surname comes from Jomo Kenyatta, Kenya's first president. Seen as one of the founding fathers of the Republic, Kenyatta was imprisoned by the British colonial regime, released after 8 years in 1961. He would be sworn in as Prime Minister 2 years later, then became president in a constitutional change in 1964. At the same time, Jomo Kenyatta's wealth began to grow, mostly through acquisition of large tracts of land previously owned by European settlers.
In 1962, there was the Lancaster House Conference. At that conference, one of the most intractable of issues was the question of what do we do to the white settlement in Kenya, and what do we do to the land question in Kenya, where even the British government from 1932 had set up the Cataladi Commission. And the agreement was that land would be obtained by the Kenya government by buying it from the white settlers. But unfortunately, they didn't bring in equity in terms of our dispossessed thousands and thousands of families who today still languish in a lot of poverty, because without employment in this country and without land, you are an enslaved person.
Standing beside Jomo Kenyatta was his fourth wife, Ngina Kenyatta, better known as Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Married off to the 61-year-old Kenyatta at the age of 18, Mama Ngina would, as First Lady, become entangled in some controversial deals. Then, in 1978, Jomo Kenyatta died and power passed from him to his vice president, Daniel Arap Moi. The 24 years of Moi's rule entrenched a kleptocracy founded under Jomo Kenyatta. These were quiet years for the Kenyattas, who carried on consolidating their wealth. The time away from Kenya's seat of power also allowed for a renewal of the Kenyatta name, which by 1978 had been mentioned in connection to controversy. But 24 years later, in 2002, a young Uhuru Kenyatta, Mama Ngina's oldest son, would be thrust into Kenyan politics, running to succeed President Moi. A few years after, overtures to secrecy jurisdictions by family members were made. And over time, they became sophisticated players in the offshore world.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
What the Pandora Papers leaks reveal is a complex web of companies, foundations, and trusts owned by members of the Kenyatta family in secrecy jurisdictions, holding millions of dollars worth of assets belonging to members of Kenya's first family. Trusts, shell companies, and foundations have legitimate and legal uses, but as has been observed, especially in the wake of the world's largest global documents leak, these entities are often used to hide wealth by the corrupt and criminal elite across the world.
It is really manipulating the legal framework. And that's why they are lawyers, obviously, to manipulate it, that you are actually moving within the gray area.
The first instance where members of President Kenyatta's immediate family are mentioned goes back to 1999. Advisors from the private wealth division of Swiss bank Union Bancaire Privée, which would later be known to have aided former President Moi and Nigerian strongman General Sani Abacha to stash their wealth overseas, contacted Panamanian law firm Aleman, Cordero, Galindo and Lee, known better as Alcogal, to incorporate a company in the British Virgin Islands. The company, Milrun International, was incorporated on February the 10th, 1999, with 3 registered shareholders, Christina Pratt, Nyokabi Modhama, and their mother, Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Both daughters held 24,500 shares each, or 98% of the company, with the family's matriarch holding 1,000 shares. While the documents show that the 3 were shareholders of the company, Milrun International had 2 nominee directors who were both employees of Alcogal, the law firm that set it up. One of them, Andres Sanchez, also provided nominee director services to a frontman acting for Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet. A year after Milrun International was incorporated, it purchased a property in London for £280,000. By 2021 property value estimates, the apartment would be worth almost £1 million. Ask for its owners, and the trail would lead back to nominee directors working for Alcogal and an address that seems to have nothing to do with the Kenyattas. In 2004, another layer of secrecy is added. The Kenyatta women transfer all their shares in Milrun International to a new entity called Valberg International Incorporated, not in the BVI, but in Panama. So, in real terms, Valberg Foundation in Panama owns Milrun International in the BVI, which has nominee directors from a law firm, and Milrun International owns a property in London. At least, that's how it looked as of 2004. But that's not where this trail into secrecy ends. In 2007, Maclay Foundation is incorporated in Panama. The 50,000 shares that Valberg Foundation held were split evenly